Fast food isn't just food, it's a battlefield. It's where adults call 911 over cheese, threaten lawsuits over napkins, and demand emotional damages because the drive-thru was too fast. Today, you're getting 69 real complaints from real people who truly believe the system has failed them. From "my burger had too much meat" to "your fries smelled so good it violated my free will." Welcome to America's most sensitive diners. 1. A woman in Florida filed a lawsuit against McDonald's, not because the coffee was hot, but because a single chicken McNugget was. After going through the drive-thru, a nugget reportedly fell onto her lap and stayed there for about 2 minutes, allegedly causing second-degree burns. Her complaint wasn't just that it was hot, but that the nugget was a defective product, produced in a way that made it unreasonably and dangerously capable of retaining heat. An entire legal battle over the thermal properties of one piece of chicken. 2. An Australian man launched a viral crusade against Subway after his foot-long sub measured a measly 11 inches. He posted a photo of the sandwich next to a tape measure, and the internet outrage machine fired up instantly. This single, slightly short sandwich led to a massive class-action lawsuit. After years of legal battles, the settlement awarded some customers a few dollars, while the lawyers walked away with over $500,000. All for 1 inch of bread. 3. Imagine going back to a service counter, completely serious, to complain that your frozen dessert is inconveniently frozen. A customer at Wendy's allegedly did just that, lodging a formal complaint that their Frosty was too cold and too thick to be enjoyed immediately through a straw. It's a frozen dairy product. The clue is literally in the name. You have to wonder what they expected. A lukewarm, soupy milkshake? That's just called a glass of chocolate milk. 4. One Burger King manager had to deal with a grown man who was on the verge of tears because his Whopper was missing its pickles. This wasn't a polite request for a correction. It was a full-blown, foot-stomping meltdown in the middle of the dining room. He accused the staff of personally targeting him and trying to ruin his day, all over a few cents worth of brined cucumbers. Some people just really need their pickles, and their emotional stability depends on it. 5. In 2016, a woman filed a $5 million lawsuit against Starbucks, not because the coffee was bad, but because the iced drinks contained too much ice. Her argument was that by filling a large portion of the cup with frozen water, Starbucks was misleading customers about how much actual beverage they were getting. She claimed it was fraud, despite the fact that iced coffee explicitly implies the presence of, well, a significant amount of ice. The case was eventually dismissed. 6. A father from California tried to sue McDonald's, not for food quality, but because the toys and Happy Meals were too appealing to his children. He argued that the allure of the plastic trinkets was so powerful that it manipulated his kids into demanding unhealthy food, making his job as a parent impossibly difficult. Essentially, he wanted a court to legally confirm that it was Ronald McDonald's fault, not his, that he couldn't just say no to his own kids. 7. One particularly picky customer filed an official complaint against Taco Bell for what he called acoustic misrepresentation. His issue was with the beefy crunch burrito. He argued the flamin' hot Fritos inside didn't produce a loud enough crunch when he bit into it. He wasn't mad about the flavor, only the sound. He claimed the name promised a distinct auditory experience which the burrito failed to deliver, depriving him of the multi-sensory meal he felt he was owed. 8. A law firm in Alabama once tried to sue Taco Bell, claiming its seasoned beef was actually only 35% beef. The rest, they alleged, was a mix of fillers and binders like oats and maltodextrin. Taco Bell responded with a massive PR campaign, taking out full-page newspaper ads that read, "Thank you for suing us," and explaining their beef is 88% beef and 12% seasonings and spices. The lawsuit was quickly dropped, but not before everyone learned what maltodextrin was. 9. One man was so personally offended by the lack of napkins he received with his order that he called the police. He had ordered a messy, sauce-covered meal from a McDonald's drive-thru. and was given what he deemed an insufficient number of napkins. When the employees refused to provide more, he considered it a public safety issue and dialed 911 to report the theft of his right to a clean dining experience. The dispatcher was, to say the least, not amused. 10. We've all seen fast food items that look nothing like their glossy advertisements. But one man had the opposite problem. He complained to KFC that his chicken sandwich looked too perfect. It so closely resembled the picture on the menu that he became deeply suspicious, believing he had been served a plastic display model or some kind of inedible stunt food used for commercials. He refused to eat it, convinced the perfect symmetry was a sign of a corporate conspiracy. 11. A New York man once filed a massive lawsuit against McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's, and KFC, blaming them for his obesity and related health problems. He argued that the companies were deceptive in their marketing, failing to adequately disclose that eating their food frequently could make you gain weight. The judge ultimately dismissed the case, essentially ruling that it's common knowledge that a diet of non-stop fast food isn't exactly a path to peak physical fitness. 12. The Great Popeye's chicken sandwich shortage of 2019 was a dark time for many, but one man in Tennessee took it personally. After driving to multiple locations and finding them all sold out, he filed a lawsuit against the company for $5,000. His claims included false advertising, deceptive business practices, and the emotional distress caused by wasting countless hours hunting for a sandwich he could not purchase. He just really wanted that sandwich. 13. A woman in Connecticut became so enraged when a deli made her grilled cheese with American cheese instead of the type she wanted that she called 911. Not once, but twice. She told the dispatcher it was a wrongfully made sandwich and demanded police intervention. When officers arrived, she reportedly yelled at the cook for not understanding the nuances of cheese. I have to ask, is there a cheese preference so strong it's worth involving law enforcement? 14. A customer once wrote a lengthy, furious letter to McDonald's headquarters after finding a single onion ring mixed in with their large order of French fries. They weren't happy about a free bonus. They were horrified. They described it as a contamination of their pure fry experience and accused the restaurant of playing God with their order. Is a stray onion ring a gift from the fast food heavens or an unforgivable culinary sin? Let me know your thoughts. 15. Here's a complaint you don't see every day. A man complained to Arby's that his roast beef sandwich had too much meat. He argued that the overflowing stack of beef, while impressive, made the sandwich structurally unsound and impossible to eat without completely disassembling it or creating a huge mess. He wasn't asking for a refund, just for them to consider making their signature sandwiches a little less generous for the sake of practicality. 16. A man in California sued McDonald's for $1.5 million in damages for the undue mental anguish he suffered after a dispute over a single napkin. During a heated argument with a manager, he was allegedly refused an extra napkin for his meal. He claimed this incident caused him so much emotional distress that it rendered him unable to work. $1.5 million. For a napkin. 17. In a classic case of convenience being inconvenient, a woman sued Jack in the Box because the drive-thru was poorly designed. She claimed the two-way speaker was positioned in such a way that she had to lean awkwardly out of her car window to place her order, which she said caused a physical strain. She wasn't complaining about the food or the service, but the literal architecture of the building getting in the way of her tacos. 18. When you order a Big Mac, you expect certain things. 2 all-beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun. One customer, however, complained that his bun didn't have a statistically average distribution of sesame seeds. He felt the seeds were clumped too much on one side, creating an aesthetically displeasing and unbalanced eating experience. He included a hand-drawn diagram in his complaint to illustrate the flawed seed pattern. 19. The broken McDonald's ice cream machine is a universal meme, but one man took it to the next level. He filed a formal complaint with the Better Business Bureau, claiming the perpetually out-of-order McFlurry machine at his local restaurant constituted a form of false advertising. He argued that if an item is consistently unavailable, it shouldn't be featured on the menu, as it creates a cycle of hope and disappointment for paying customers. 20. We've heard of food not living up to the ads, but a customer at Domino's complained that his pizza looked exactly like the one in the commercial. This made him deeply suspicious. He was convinced that no human could create such a perfectly round pizza with such evenly distributed pepperoni. He refused to eat it, believing he'd been given a plastic, inedible display model by mistake. The staff had to make him a new, slightly messier pizza to calm him down. 21. One health-conscious customer complained to Subway that her foot-long turkey sub had an inappropriate bread-to-vegetable ratio. She wasn't saying there were too few veggies, but too many. Her complaint stated that the sheer volume of lettuce and tomatoes overwhelmed the delicate flavor of the turkey, and that the sandwich was more like a salad in a bread bowl. She demanded a partial refund for the overabundance of healthy ingredients. 22. A man in Texas tried to sue Burger King after ordering the Texas Double Whopper because, in his opinion, it wasn't authentically Texan enough. His detailed complaint argued that for a burger to bear the state's name, it legally must contain either jalapenos, a smoky BBQ sauce, or be large enough to feed a small horse. He claimed the existing burger was an insult to the entire Lone Star State. 23. It's one thing to complain about bad service, but one customer wrote a formal complaint about an employee being too nice. He visited a Chick-fil-A and claimed the cashier's relentless cheerfulness and constant stream of "my pleasure" felt disingenuous and robotic. The customer felt that this aggressive pleasantry created an unsettling and artificial atmosphere that ruined the authenticity of his dining experience. Apparently, you really can't please everyone. 24. One customer at a burger joint filed a formal complaint because the paper wrapper on his cheeseburger was excessively crinkly. He claimed the noise it made every time he touched it was so loud and distracting that it gave him a headache and completely ruined his meal. He suggested the company invest in a quieter, less acoustically aggressive wrapping material for a more serene dining experience. Imagine being that sensitive to sound. 25. A man in Arizona took Taco Bell's slogan, "Live Más," a little too literally. He wrote a long, rambling complaint to corporate, explaining that after eating a Chalupa Supreme, his life had not, in fact, become more. He felt no significant increase in his overall happiness, adventure, or life satisfaction. He accused the company of false advertising, as the consumption of their product failed to deliver the promised existential enhancement. 26. This wasn't a complaint about missing pickles, but about their geometry. A man sent an email to a fast food chain complaining that the round pickle slices on his round burger patty were an inefficient use of space. He argued that oval-shaped pickles would provide better surface area coverage and ensure a more consistent pickle-to-bite ratio. He even included a diagram to prove his point. That's some serious dedication to pickle engineering. 27. While most people complain about slow service, one woman complained that the drive-thru at her local Wendy's was too fast. She described the experience as anxiety-inducing and impersonal. She felt rushed to make a decision, pay, and grab her food, claiming the high-speed efficiency robbed her of the simple joy of the transaction. She wanted them to slow down and make the whole process feel less like a pit stop at a NASCAR race. 28. You've heard of food not looking appetizing, but what about the restaurant's fault? A customer complained that the harsh, fluorescent lighting inside a McDonald's made his French fries look pale and sickly. He insisted that the unflattering overhead lights were misrepresenting the golden, crispy reality of the fries, making them appear less appealing. He suggested they install warmer, more dramatic lighting to properly showcase their food. 29. Here's a new one. A complaint about a lack of forced friendship. A regular customer at a coffee shop complained that the barista who served him every morning never asked him about his day. The employee was polite and efficient, but the customer felt their relationship should have progressed to small talk. He described the purely transactional encounters as cold and disappointing, feeling he was being denied a meaningful human connection along with his latte. 30. A father took his son to Burger King specifically because of the flame-grilled promise. He later complained because he never saw any actual flames. He genuinely expected some kind of tableside pyrotechnics, or at least an open fire visible from the counter. He said his son was deeply disappointed by the lack of a theatrical grilling experience and felt the restaurant had failed to deliver on its core marketing promise. 31. It's the little things that get to people. A customer once lodged a formal complaint against a fast food restaurant because the carbonation in his soda was too aggressive. He claimed the fizz was so sharp and bubbly that it hurt his tongue and made it difficult to taste the actual soda. Has that ever actually happened to you? Or is this guy just operating on a different sensory level than the rest of us? 32. A teenager, likely seeking a thrill, complained to Taco Bell that their Diablo sauce was not, in his words, devilishly hot. He was expecting an almost unbearably painful, challenge-level spice that would make him sweat and question his life choices. Instead, he found it to be merely pretty spicy. He felt the name was a gross exaggeration and demanded to know why they would name a sauce after the devil if it wasn't going to cause him immense suffering. 33. In what might be the most ironic complaint ever, a woman ordered a side salad from a burger joint and then complained that it tasted too much like vegetables. She described the flavor as overwhelmingly earthy and green, and was disappointed that it wasn't somehow richer or more savory. It seems she wanted the health credit for ordering a salad, but with the flavor profile of a basket of onion rings. That's a tough balance to strike. 34. Attention to detail is one thing, but this is another level. A woman complained that the small, pre-cut hole on her plastic soda lid was not perfectly in the center. She claimed this slight geometric imperfection caused the straw to sit at a subtle angle, which created an imbalanced and uncomfortable drinking experience. She saw this lack of perfect symmetry as a sign of declining quality control and corporate carelessness. 35. Forget suing for hot coffee. A man in New York once tried to sue Subway because he claimed he was addicted to their sandwiches. He argued that the company's formula of bread, meats, and sauces was so scientifically engineered for craving that he had lost all self-control. He wasn't saying the food was bad, but that it was too good, and that the company should be held responsible for his inability to stop eating there multiple times a week. 36. And for a timeless classic, a man at a KFC went to the counter holding a half-eaten bucket of chicken to complain with a completely straight face that his original recipe fried chicken was too greasy. He was genuinely shocked and upset that a food product, which is created by submerging it in a vat of boiling oil, had turned out to be oily. The staff was reportedly speechless, unsure how to explain the fundamental concept of deep frying. 37. The sheer injustice of a stubborn ketchup packet was too much for one man to bear. After a valiant but failed struggle to open it, he didn't just toss it aside. Instead, he filed a formal complaint with the company, claiming the packet's defective tier notch design led to a sauceless tragedy with his fries. He described this tiny inconvenience as a fundamental failure in product engineering that ruined his entire lunch. 38. For one breakfast customer, the problem wasn't the food, but the tone of the drive-thru worker's voice. His official complaint stated that the employee's greeting was excessively chipper for 7 in the morning. He described her cheerful good morning as a gratingly optimistic assault on his pre-caffeine sensibilities. Apparently, this was unacceptable. He suggested the company implement a mandatory morning voice protocol for all early shift employees. 39. The Happy Meal spectacularly failed to live up to its name, according to one mother in Ohio. When her child received a toy from a different collection than the one advertised, a full-scale tantrum erupted. Her complaint to corporate wasn't just about the mix-up. She accused McDonald's of a breach of contract. She argued the product's explicit purpose is to create happiness, and by providing a tantrum-inducing toy, the meal had fundamentally failed its one job. 40. Believe it or not, a man once took issue with the physical shape of his ice. He complained that the crescent-shaped ice cubes in his soda were aerodynamically inefficient for straw usage. He claimed the flat edge created a disruptive sloshing effect when he drank, unlike the smoother flow offered by full cubed ice. He was dead serious, demanding to know why the chain had forsaken superior ice cube geometry. 41. To one driver's profound dismay, the other drive-through lane was moving faster. This wasn't just a mild annoyance. He saw it as a personal slight. He actually called the restaurant from his car while still in line to complain to the manager about the inequitable distribution of service speed. He was convinced the employees were intentionally favoring the other lane and demanded they halt all operations until his lane's momentum was restored. 42. The pizza crust, or the pizza bones as some call it, became the subject of a formal grievance for one woman. Her complaint to Domino's was that the crust portion of her slice was too large. To her, this wasn't the satisfying end to a slice. It was a flavorless breadstick she was forced to pay for. She demanded a partial refund calculated by the percentage of the pizza's surface area that was just plain crust. 43. One customer found the vibrant yellow and red uniform of the staff to be visually aggressive and unappetizing. In his complaint, he wrote that the color scheme was so jarring it negatively impacted his digestive system. He argued that the restaurant should switch to more calming neutral colors like beige or light blue to create a more serene and gastronomically friendly environment. How much does a restaurant's color scheme affect your appetite? 44. Imagine opening your bag of fries only to find a monster lurking within. One customer pulled out a single, freakishly long French fry. It was nearly 7 inches long and immediately felt a sense of dread. Instead of being amused, she was horrified. She complained to the manager that its unnatural length was unsettling and suggested it was likely a sign of some kind of genetic modification in their potatoes. 45. A woman's order of a bacon cheeseburger sent her into a state of utter confusion when she discovered, to her horror, that there were pieces of bacon on it. She brought it back to the counter, furious that her burger had been contaminated with pork. The employee calmly pointed out that she had ordered the bacon cheeseburger. She stared back blankly and said, "I thought that was just the name of it, not what was in it." 46. The laid-back jazz music playing inside a Taco Bell was, for one customer, a complete betrayal of the brand's identity. He filed a complaint stating that the music selection was thematically inappropriate. He felt the Taco Bell experience should be accompanied by loud, high-energy pop or rock music to match the bold flavors and rebellious spirit of the food. The smooth jazz, he claimed, made his Doritos Locos Taco taste less extreme. 47. A man once received his single burrito in a large paper bag and saw it not as a convenience, but as an environmental travesty. He marched back into the restaurant and demanded to speak to the manager about their wasteful packaging policies. He lectured the staff for 5 minutes on the carbon footprint of using such a large bag for such a small item, arguing that they should have a diverse range of bag sizes for every possible order combination. 48. For one customer, the problem wasn't hidden calories but prominently displayed ones. He complained to the corporate office that the menu board's calorie counts were a source of public shaming. He argued that being forced to see that his favorite double cheeseburger combo had over 1,000 calories caused him pre-meal anxiety and post-meal guilt, effectively ruining the entire experience. He wanted the option of a calorie-free menu for guilt-free ordering. 49. The classic Burger King slogan, "Have it your way," was put to the ultimate test by a man who tried to order a McRib. When the confused employee explained that they were, in fact, at a Burger King and not a McDonald's, the customer became irate. He pointed at the sign and insisted that his way was having a McRib, and that the restaurant was engaging in false advertising by refusing his very specific, albeit impossible, request. 50. In a stunning display of culinary confusion, a man complained to a pizza place that his pepperoni pizza was too spicy. When the staff tasted it and found it completely normal, they were perplexed. After a few questions, the truth came out. The man believed pepperoni was just a type of small, round sausage and had no idea it was known for being slightly peppery. He was genuinely shocked to learn that pepperoni was supposed to have a kick. 51. The exact shade of orange on the cheese in his nachos Bel Grande was deeply troubling to one Taco Bell patron. He submitted a detailed complaint, complete with a color swatch from a local paint store, arguing that the nacho cheese sauce was more of a burnt sienna than a vibrant cheddar. He felt this dull, muted color made the dish look unappetizing and suggested their food scientists work on developing a more visually stimulating cheese hue. 52. One man's sense of order was thrown into chaos by the drive-thru menu. His complaint? The breakfast items were listed above the lunch items. He argued that since he was there at 2 in the afternoon, this layout was illogical and forced his eyes to needlessly travel over irrelevant breakfast information to get to the burgers. He proposed a time-sensitive, digitally updating menu that would hide options that were no longer available. 53. A woman at a Dairy Queen was completely baffled by her Blizzard. After it was handed to her upside down, the chain's signature move to show off its thickness, she just stared at it. Then she complained to the manager that the employee had served it to her the wrong way up. She was not amused by the demonstration. She was genuinely convinced the teenager behind the counter had no idea how gravity worked and was trying to give her a cup of air. 54. The concept of a secret menu was, for one customer, not a fun insider tip, but a form of corporate discrimination. He wrote an angry letter to Starbucks after hearing other customers order drinks he couldn't find on the board. He claimed that having an unlisted menu created an unfair two-tiered system that favored longtime customers and left newcomers like him feeling confused and excluded. He demanded all menu items be made public. 55. A customer once complained that the hole in the middle of his donut was too small. He felt cheated, arguing that a smaller hole meant he was getting more donut and therefore more calories than he had bargained for. He believed there should be an industry-standard donut-to-hole ratio, and that this particular donut was in clear violation of that imaginary standard. He wasn't asking for a refund, just for less donut. 56. For one man, the joy of a good deal was completely overshadowed by its name. He complained to a pizza chain that their cheesy bread was a linguistically lazy and uninspired name for a product. He wrote that the name lacked pizzazz and romance, and suggested they rebrand it to something more exciting like garlic parmesan daggers or molten cheese pillows. Is he wrong? What would you name it? 57. The squiggly line of mustard on his hot dog was an artistic failure, according to one very particular customer. He brought it back to the counter, complaining that the mustard was applied in a haphazard and aesthetically displeasing manner. He insisted the employee remake it, this time applying the condiment in a perfectly straight, uniform line from end to end. Apparently, the visual presentation was just as important as the taste. 58. A woman sued a fast food chain after her child, who was sitting on her lap, opened the car window in the drive-thru, and was allegedly struck by the automated payment drawer. She didn't blame herself for the lack of supervision. She claimed the restaurant was negligent for designing a payment system that could be activated by a curious toddler. Essentially, she argued that the drive-thru should have been completely child-proof. 59. One customer's complaint was about the future. He was deeply concerned that the plastic spork he received with his meal would take hundreds of years to decompose in a landfill. He wasn't an environmental activist trying to make a point. He was genuinely distressed by the thought of his personal spork outliving him. He spent 10 minutes explaining to the manager how this single utensil had plunged him into an existential crisis. 60. A man tried to return a half-eaten burrito by claiming it violated his dietary restrictions. The problem? His restriction was that he didn't like onions, and he had eaten about 80% of the burrito before deciding the onion flavor was too much to bear. When the manager pointed this out, the man replied with a straight face, "It took me that long to be sure." 61. A college student complained to Domino's that the delivery driver who brought his pizza was too attractive. He claimed her good looks were so distracting that it made the transaction awkward and stressful, causing him to forget his planned tip amount. He wasn't trying to get a discount. He just wanted to inform management that their hiring practices were creating an unnecessarily high-pressure environment for socially anxious customers, like himself. 62. The temperature difference between a hot fry and room temperature ketchup was, for one man, a culinary crisis. He complained that dipping his hot fries into the cool ketchup created a thermally dissonant experience that was jarring to his palate. He wasn't asking for hot ketchup. He just wanted the restaurant to acknowledge and perhaps apologize for this fundamental clash of temperatures. 63. It wasn't the food, it was the footwear. A customer at a Subway lodged a complaint against an employee whose shoes were too squeaky. He claimed the incessant, high-pitched squeak of the employee's rubber soles on the linoleum floor was so distracting he couldn't properly focus on choosing his toppings. He described it as an auditory assault that completely ruined the sandwich-building process. 64. The buy one get one free deal proved to be a complex logical puzzle for one customer. She stormed to the counter, furious that she was charged for a single burger. When the manager explained that she needed to buy one to get one free, she was outraged. She screamed, "This is a scam! The sign says, 'Get one free.' It doesn't say you have to buy anything." The core concept was completely lost on her. 65. That little plastic tab you press down on your soda lid? For one woman, it was a weapon. She complained that the tab on her drink wouldn't stay down, and every time she went to take a sip, it would spring up and poke her in the nose. She considered this a major design flaw and a personal assault, demanding to know why the company was manufacturing such aggressively nasal lids. 66. A man's biggest beef with Burger King was purely auditory. He formally complained that the static and crackle from the drive-thru speaker was so loud it constituted a violation of communication clarity standards. He wasn't just annoyed. He argued that the poor audio quality could lead to order inaccuracies, which in turn could cause severe emotional distress for customers with specific cravings. 67. The simple act of urban planning caused one customer immense psychological distress. He complained to Wendy's corporate that a new franchise had opened directly across the street from his favorite McDonald's. This, he claimed, forced him into a daily crisis of conscience, making him choose between his loyalties. The emotional turmoil of this decision, he argued, was the fault of Wendy's for their predatory store placement. 68. Sometimes a marketing slogan is too effective. After Wendy's famous "Where's the Beef" campaign in the 80s, one restaurant manager reported a bizarre complaint from an elderly woman. She was furious that the cashier didn't immediately understand what she wanted when she just walked up to the counter and repeatedly yelled the catchphrase at him. To her, the slogan had become the official way to order. 69. And finally, a complaint that proves there is truly nothing left to complain about. A man driving past a Burger King had to pull over and go in, despite not being hungry. His complaint: the smell of flame-broiled burgers being vented outside was irresistibly powerful and coercive. He claimed the restaurant was essentially using aromatic entrapment to force him to buy a Whopper against his will. You've just heard 69 actual complaints people were confident enough to file in public, in writing, with their names on them. So now I want you to answer something honestly. Which one is the most embarrassing for humanity? Which complaint made you think, yeah, maybe we don't deserve voting rights anymore? Tell me the number in the comments. Argue about it. Get personal.